Hello guys, welcome to another SoapUI web service tutorial from rcvacademy.com. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about setting the SoapUI properties using Groovy Script. Now, in the previous tutorial, we have already covered that you can retrieve or get the properties at different level using the Groovy Script. And in this tutorial, we are continuing the same series and we'll learn how you can set the properties using the Groovy Script. Now, all these tutorials are important to learn because once we get to the end-to-end design of the automated test cases, you will require all these concepts, and these should be handy for you in order to learn the automation testing in SoapUI. So what we are going to learn in this tutorial, we are going to learn about setting up the global properties, setting up project properties, TestSuite properties, TestCase properties, and TestStep properties. Now let's get started and go back to the SoapUI. So here we have understood in the last tutorial how you can get property value. Let me comment all the previous code and come back in the later section. All right. Okay. So I've commented all the previous code. So let me show you how you comment the code in SoapUI Groovy Script. So multi-line comment is just / and star, and then if you enter, that's how you do multi-line comment, and single line comment is just 2 /. All right. So that's what I have utilized here to comment the whole code here at the top. I have used the multi-line comment, and then I have used single line comments below. Right. So before we get into the details of setting the property, let's understand how you can access or get the property or get the whole request, XML request through Groovy Script. All right. So that's I wanted to cover as well. And one more thing is to define. So I'll show you, like in the previous tutorial, we have covered that whenever we have to access a property which is in different test suite, we have to go back to the project, right? So for example, you are in this particular test case, for example, subtract test case, and you have to access the property which is into the sanity test and add this addition test, right? So what we used to do is we used to go back to from the test case, from the test step to test case, then test case to test suite, and then project, and then went back to the test suite, test case, and test step, right? That we understood from the diagram. So this diagram, right? So if you have to access any property which is in another test suite, you have to basically traverse from the test step to test case to test suite to project, and then from project to another test suite, and then go to the test case, relevant test case, to access the property. All right. Now coming back here, so because we have to traverse again and again to the project level, so it's good idea to define the project path into a variable. All right. So just what I'll do is I'll just define the project path and put testrunner.testcase.testsuite.project into the project path. Right. Now what you can do is, if you want to access any of the different test suites, what you can do is you can just say project path and dot test suites and provide the test suite name. So that project path is sort of defined in the variable which you can use. All right. So in order to access the request or XML request through Groovy, so we have defined the project path. Now what we'll do is, say for example, let's see where our Groovy script is. So this Groovy script is in this particular regression test suite. All right. Now what we'll do is we'll just say project path. All right. So when we say project path, so basically what we are doing is from the test case. All right. So test runner is the is your variable. All right, that we are using, and from the test runner we are going to the test case, which is end-to-end test, and then test suite, which is regression tests, and we are going to the project. All right. So we have already reached to the project when we say project path and then dot whichever suite we are going to, or whichever test suite we are going to get the XML request for. So for example, we do not want we want the request which is basically the multiply request in the regression tests 1, 2. All right, so what we'll say is project path dot TestSuite. All right, so now we are already here. When we say project path, then TestSuite, then provide the name of the test suite. What is the name of the test suite from which you want to access the XML? It is the regression tests 1, 2. Just provide that name. Oops, sorry. Regression tests 1, 2. All right. Now we are in the regression test 1, 2. Below that, which request you are interested in, right? So for example, you are interested in the divide request or add request. So basically, which test case contains that request? Okay. So let's try to fetch the divide request. All right. So then say test cases and then square braces and provide the name of the test case. All right. Now you are in the test case. Now below the test case, you have to provide the test steps. All right. Now just say test steps. I'll come to the other line. Test steps. And what is the test step that you are looking for? You're looking for divide. All right. And then get property value. What property value you are interested in? So if you go to divide and go to the custom property, I am interested in getting the property value request. All right. So just say request and close bracket. All right. Now when you run it, it will fetch the property value, right? You can see on the pop-up screen here, the property value or the request has been displayed on this pop-up screen. Okay, so that's how you access the property value or the whole request from the Groovy script. If you want to just print that, just provide log.info and hit enter, and it will print that particular XML request in the console below here. All right. That's the request that has been printed. Now, why accessing this request is important? It is important because when you are designing your automated testing using Groovy scripts, you will utilize the request, you will access this request, and then you will form this request and populate the data and send the data automatically, or that we used to do manually before. Okay, so having an understanding of accessing the property value or the request XML is really, really important. All right, so that's a bit of additional content from the last tutorial. Now when we come to the set properties, okay, so it's sort of pretty similar. Instead of get property value, you just have to change the command to set property value and the parameters that you are passing. Okay, so let's understand setting the global property values, how you are going to set it. So for getting the global property value, we used com.everywhere SoapUI. This is the get property value for the global context. Let me copy that here. Okay, and to set the property value, just change it to the set property value. Provide the name of the property that you want to set to and the value. Okay, so you have to provide the name and the value that you want to set. So for example, I want to set test API, all right, at the global level or global properties level for the property with name A. Okay, let's see in the preferences, in the global properties, you see currently there are two properties A and B, and the value for A is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let me try and execute this. So the value should be set to test API after I execute this. Okay, let me comment that, or just leave it uncommented, that's fine. So if I run this, Now it ran successfully without any error. That means the global property has been set to test API. The global property A has been set to test API. Okay, let's go to preferences again and go to global properties, and you can see here that the value of the property name A has been set to test API. All right, if you want to add another property, you can simply add the value for the property B as well. You just change it to B and run again, and the property will be set to, both the property value should be set to test API, as you can see here. All right, so that's how you set the global property. Now coming back to the project property, it's same, exactly same. Change it to set property value. So this is what we use to get property value at the project level. All right, now to set property value, you just change it to set property value and then whatever value and test API. Okay, now if I run this, it will set the property value with name A and value test API. Okay, so let's go back to the property. So A is blank at the moment at the project level calculator. So this value should be set to test API. Let me run it, and you can see here it has been set to test API. If I change it to B, the value at B will be changed to test API as well, as you can see here. All right, so that's how you set the project property. Now because we have defined the project path which contains this whole thing, so testrunner.testcase.testsuite, you can simply use this project path dot set property value, and it should work exactly similar way. The good thing is you just don't have to type the whole thing every time you are going to access the property. So defining it in a variable and using that variable is really important. Okay, so you can see C has been set to test API as well, and the length of the code has reduced a lot. Now coming back to the TestSuite property, TestCase and TestStep property. So TestSuite property, how we used to access the TestSuite property, we used to go to the TestSuite level. All right, and like the same way that we defined the project path, I'll say TestSuite path, so we don't have to type the whole thing again. All right, and then we'll say TestSuite path dot set property value and then test API or test web service. Just change it to something else. Oops. All right, now if I run this, let me TestSuite path, let me run this, and if we go to this particular TestSuite, go to the custom property, that's the test web service that has been set. All right, if I change it to B, run it again, the value for B property has been set to test web service as well. Let me clear the console here. All right, now because we have directly set TestSuite path, so basically from this Groovy script, if we are saying testrunner.testcase.testsuite, it by default goes to the same parent, to the parent, in which parent TestSuite in which this particular Groovy script is, right? If you want to set the property which is at the TestSuite level or TestSuite level, which is in a different TestSuite, then what you have to do is you have to go back to the project and come back to the TestSuite in which you want to allocate that particular property, or you change the property. So how you will do it, so you go to the test test that has changed, so let me project path. So for example, your Groovy script is here, but you want to set the TestSuite property not for the regression test, but for the regression test 1, 2. All right, you want to change this property here. How you will do is you go back to the, so from this step you go to the test case, TestSuite, project, come back to this TestSuite and set the custom property here. Okay, so testrunner.testcase.testsuite.project, and then from there you come back to this TestSuite. Okay, so I'll say project path, and from project path you say TestSuites. So which TestSuite you want to set the property for? Regression tests 1, 2. All right, now you are in regression test 1, 2 TestSuite, and just say set property value. All right, and what property you want to set? What name is it? AA, and what value you want to set? Just provide that value. Okay, test value. Okay, that's pretty much it. Now if you run this, you can see test value has been set up at regression test TestSuite level, which is not the parent of this Groovy script, right? So we have went back to calculator and came back here. Okay, so this is basically just give you like an overview how you are going to solve the problem of traversing to different levels in the project structure in case you are going to set up those properties or get those properties. Okay, now coming back to the test case property, I'll again define test case path so that we don't have to type testrunner.testCase. Okay, and just pick that, put test case path. All right, so for example, you want to set the property at this particular test case level, you just have to say test case path dot set property value and see what are the properties. So A is there, and for A I want to say test, provide it in string property test. Okay, close braces, and now you can see property test has been set up. So basically this thing is same as test runner dot test case, and we are setting the property, right? Set property value. So what we are doing here, when we say test case path, we are just like putting it in the variable testrunner.testCase, right, in the test case path, and replacing this with test case path. Okay, let me change it to B and run again. Okay, now you can see B has been set up as well. Now coming to the TestStep property. Okay, so just say test runner dot test case. Okay, so we are at this particular test step. Okay, now you want to change the property for any of these requests. Okay, say for example multiply or add or test step property. What you need to do is you are at the test, you need to go back to the test case level and then come back to the test step and select the test step for which you want to set the property. Okay, so when I say testrunner.testCase, I have reached the end-to-end test because this is the Groovy script I'm writing this code in. So this Groovy script is child of end-to-end test case, right? End-to-end test. So when we say testrunner.testCase, I have reached end-to-end test, and now I have to come back to the step for which I want to set the property. So testcase dot test steps. Okay, now I have came here from the test case to test steps, and now I have to provide the name of the test step for which I want to set the property. So you can provide whatever name. So for example, I want to set the property for the add request here. Okay, in the custom property. So I have chosen test steps add, and then dot set property value, and I'll say in this username. So I want to set username to some value, ABC for example. Okay, and run it. Now you can see username has been set to ABC. If you want to watch it again, I'll rerun. Now you can see ABCD has been set up. If you want to change, or if you want to set the property at some other test step level, simply change the name of the test step. All right, so just say multiply, and if we go to multiply, yeah, we have say timeout. I want to choose the property at timeout, or change the set the property at timeout as 1200. Oh, not here, sorry, in the custom property. So custom property, we have, no, we don't have, so we have request, we have username here. So let's say username again. Okay, so you can see ABC has been set up in the multiply request as well. So that's pretty much all about setting up the property. Let me highlight the whole code here. So you can see what we have done is we have defined the variables to hold the project path, TestSuite path, TestCase path, just to reduce the amount of code that we'll be writing. And then we have understood how you can get the XML request through Groovy Script, how you can set the properties at global level, project level, TestSuite level, TestCase level, and the TestStep level as well. So that's pretty much about the setting property using Groovy Script in SoapUI. Hope you liked the video. Thank you for watching.